Hey there, today I'm showing you guys how to make a thumbnail like the ones that H20 Delirious uses in his videos. Now the one we're going to model after this one right here. You can kind of see that sometimes he takes off this white circle right here and sometimes he just moves it around. But most of the time this is pretty much the one that he uses. So let's go ahead and get started here. This is going to be our finished product right here. And it should look like this when we're done. So the first thing that you want to do is make a new composition for 1280 by 720p, and this is, as I've said before, the best resolution for thumbnails. And you want to double click on that layer over there to unlock it so that you can use that. And we want to create, by double clicking here, we want to create a gradient overlay, or actually just a color overlay. And we're going to choose a blue color that looks like his thumbnail, but I already pretty much got the color on this one, and the one we're going to be using, or the hexadecimal that we're going to be using, is 023995. So I'm going to copy that for now, and I'm going to go ahead here, color overlay, and paste that. And we got pretty much that same background color that he uses right here. And you can see this white circle, that's what we're going to make now. So that's pretty simple. We go over here to the ellipse tool or circle tool, and we are gonna click and drag, and you're gonna hold down shift so that it's a circle. Now once you got the circle here selected, you want to go to layer, new, and just click layer. You can see a new layer is created. Now we take the paintbrush tool and we're gonna choose a white color here, and you just fill that in, and then click Control D to deselect it, or Command D, and you can see we now have a circle, and we can pretty much approximate where he has it. He has it right about here. We're gonna go into filter, blur, and Gaussian blur, and this is basically gonna create that kind of a blurred effect that he has, and we can kind of replicate it. It's about that much, and here after you finish it you can resize it, and if it's not enough blurred you can go back in and do more blur, and that seems about right from far away, but for preference, I'm going to go ahead and blur a little bit more, and there we go. That seems right for me, for how I like it. And now we're going to go ahead and do the text here. So you can use, of course, any font. You can kind of see that he changes the font. Sometimes he uses the GTA 5 font, he uses other fonts, and these can be found on websites like dafont.com. But for this, we're going to use a font that is pretty simple, which is called Impact. And here I'm going to write, let me just write anything real quick. I'm going to increase the size here by holding shift and dragging in the corner. And let's see what he wrote in this thumbnail. He wrote funny moments. So let's write funny. And now we're going to style the text. So we're going to double click on this over here. And we want to create a stroke that kind of looks like the one he has here, which is a little bit thick and not too much, but also not too little. So let's go with right there. Yeah, that looks about right. You want it to be visible. It just kind of makes the whole thumbnail pop. Now, if we right click on the funny layer, we can actually just go ahead and duplicate the layer, and we hold down Command and we drag it down, and now we can write moments. That way you don't have to restyle the text again, and then you can edit it at a later date with something else. This is episode 28, so we can do the same thing here. Duplicate layer, drag down by holding Command, and do 28, and then we can go ahead and move that into place. And that does it for that part. We're gonna go ahead, you can kind of see that he actually has another little halo right there, white effect, and you can easily do that by just going back to the first layer that we made with the white circle, and you can duplicate that one and just scale that down by clicking Command T. We're going to scale that down and kind of approximate where he put it, which is right about there. You can always move those layers. For another vital part here, he has kind of a white gradient here. And now that's why at the beginning I almost said gradient, but it's not a gradient. It's just a solid color, and then on top we're going to create another kind of Gaussian blur. So here, let me show you that in a second. So you're going to create another circle, or you can just, go ahead and duplicate the one we already had, but let's just go ahead and create another one so you can see that again. We fill that circle in and create a new layer. Actually, whoops, let's go back. You have to create a new layer first. I got into that too soon. And then we fill that in. Control D to deselect. And now you have your circle. His is kind of like, it takes up half. Now you can resize this. You can see how I'm resizing it here. You do Command T to resize, and then you just drag the sides. And we're gonna kind of make this white line blur right there. You can see it goes almost to halfway. So let's drag this down and pull this up. And now we're gonna go into Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And let's blur that even more than the last ones. We want a big blur, almost that it's gone. And we're gonna drag it up. We hold down Shift so that it doesn't move. You kind of want to approximate where it's at. You can kind of see it here in the thumbnails. It's a little bit more blurred. We can actually just bring down the opacity over here and just play around with that until you're happy with it. Now, one thing I didn't mention here when I was doing the tutorial is that you should move the layers that you want to be seen more down to the bottom. So the circle layer that you see there is kind of being overshadowed by the layer we just put on top. So you would want to actually move that layer below the circle layer so that the circle layer pops out more, like in the actual thumbnail that H20 Delirious uses. Now the next thing we want to do is bring in our object. So here we have a Luigi PNG, which is a really cool PNG and very high definition. And you always really want to get high definition artifacts for this, so the thumbnails look very nice. We also have the Garry's Mod logo, so that we can put it right on top, just like his. And we can kind of look at the proportions here. You can see the logo is actually quite large, and it goes into the middle circle. And then the 28 makes it almost all the way to the top. So let's go ahead and click Enter there. And we're gonna select all three by holding Command and then clicking on each layer you want to move. And then we just go ahead and drag that down while still holding Command. And we're gonna go to down here. We're gonna click Control or Command T, and we're gonna scale that again and just get it kind of the same size that he has. And now let's go ahead back into the Garry's Mod logo, Command T, and scale that again. And I think the logo is about that large. It's pretty big and pretty noticeable. Let's make it even a little bit larger here. It doesn't have to be exact, and you can always just keep messing around with it till you're happy with it yourself. Now you want to double click on the Garry's Mod logo layer here. You want to create a stroke that is, I believe it's not too dark. So we're going to bring down the opacity here. It's about there. Let's make it this actually 2. And that looks about right. You can obviously mess with it. You can go back into that and you can create a bevel if you want it to look kind of like a logo. And that's really going to change the look of it if you want it to pop a little bit more. But for now, we're going to hit cancel and we're going to keep it like that. Now his Luigi here also has a stroke around it, and he puts a lot of strokes on a lot of these characters that aren't too noticeable. So let's go ahead and put a stroke on Luigi here real quick. We double click on that layer. We click on stroke right here and we check that. We can move this so we can see the Luigi. Now the stroke on the characters is very light and not too dark. You can kind of see, so it's probably 2, and then the opacity is a little bit more. And this is always to however you prefer it, and the stroke is actually white. So let's go there and there. Now you can see the stroke better. Let's actually bring down the opacity to about there. And now when we zoom out, you can see everything a little bit better, and you can fix it a little bit more. So we can see the circle here isn't quite big enough. So let's go back into the first layer and resize that a little bit. And that kind of, he kind of resizes it sometimes for whenever he puts more text or less text. And let's see, this kind of blurs into it. There's more blue going on here for the big layer. So this big layer we can actually bring up, and then Command T, scale, and bring this down so that we kind of lose a little bit of it and it's more subtle. And you can see there that's pretty much the thumbnails that he makes. And you can move anything here. You can change the color overlay here to change the whole thumbnail, make it look different depending on what you're uploading. And you can see it looks good in every single color, because since all those white overlays are on top, they don't change color. So you can, put any color you'd like and it looks good. So that's how to make that thumbnail. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Of course, if you spend a little bit more time on it, you're gonna get better results. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. And that's it for this video. Please subscribe if you like the videos. Thank you for watching.